What up, everybody? It's your boy Jay Rome's. We're back at episode, what, 4 or 5 now? 4 or 5?
I can't even, it's 3. You're struggling to count already.
Yeah, we're doing so great, guys. We're doing it by the tens and almost hundreds, tens and twenties of views. But we're growing little by little. But yeah, it's your boy Jay Rome's, John Romero, and my boy Mark Sharma. How do you pronounce it better? Because I always feel like I body your last name,
No, you got it right, Sharma. It's like,
Mark Sharma.
because I'm half Indian, half English, so it's an Indian name. So if you want to put like a little curry sauce on it, you got to roll the R. So Sharma.
Mark Sharma.
Yeah.
Damn with my head. Damn with my head.
Yeah, be careful, bro. We're going to get cancelled already.
But you know,
I haven't even got a minute in and we're already.
I hear the troops knocking on the door to come get both of us. The dog starts
right?
barking, guys. We're in trouble. The dog starts barking. Let's start this off, brother.
Yeah. All good. So today we're going to talk a little bit about why people quit, whether that be jiu-jitsu or entrepreneurship in general, because I feel like with jiu-jitsu, similarly to entrepreneurship, it is a grind, and it is not a short-term grind. You're talking 5, 10, 15 years of just non-stop blood, sweat, and tears. So why do we do it? The payoff comes very, very slow. The payoff takes a long time to arrive. So clearly there's something wrong with us all, which is probably why people with autism do well in jiu-jitsu. Not to say there's anything wrong with being autistic. Clearly it's an advantage in jiu-jitsu.
It's an advantage.
Right. I always joke because I'm dyslexic. I was like, damn, I got the wrong disorder, man.
Yo, for someone who's dyslexic, you could put some gear together.
I know, right? True story. This funny story from when I first started the brand. I had this busted up old MacBook and I couldn't afford to get a new one. And it had like sticky keys because I guess like dust had got into the keyboard.
Yeah. Let's use that excuse. Why the keys are.
But that combined with my dyslexia, there was so many freaking spelling mistakes on the website, on social media posts, even a few snuck into some designs. And I had to like call the factory at like 3 in the morning, like, yo, no, don't stop production. Don't stop production. I missed the J for PJJ.
Is this BJ's?
Yeah.
Nation's BJ's.
Right. So anyway, side note. But yeah, we're talking about why people quit jiu-jitsu, a coach's and a competitor's perspective from my man Jay Romes, and then obviously a business owner's perspective from myself. And if you don't know, I am Mark Sharma, the founder of Nation Athletic. You can go check us out, nationathletic.com. My boy there, modeling. I'm modeling. Got the prototypes.
Promo code J Romero _20.
There you go. Quick shout out. Sponsored by.
Let's go, People's Champs. People's Champ
Jay Rones. So I hear you've been competing the last few weeks, pretty heavy, right?
Yeah, from pretty much the end of last year to pretty much now. I didn't do much the beginning of January, but the last 3 weeks, the last 3 weeks I've competed. I went 2-1 this last month. Was hoping for 3-0, but one silly mistake is the reason why I went home with that loss. So it is what it is. I've like we said, it's a long grind anyway. So I've really developed that onto the next mindset. And it has been helping my jiu-jitsu actually. You know, once I started not taking the L so hard and realizing like, hey, like none of this shit matters anyway. Until you get the black anyway, I feel like, but regardless, as a competitor, you know, a loss does hurt to take after a while. You know, you don't want to keep losing, but yeah. To answer your question, I went off topic. To answer your question, yeah, man, I've been competing. A little banged up right now, so I'm trying to like nurse that. I compete again on Saturday for $500, so I want to make sure that I'm good. You know.
Nice. Which actually leads nicely into kind of the first question I had. You know, I guess as a coach and competitor, do you think that the pressure of competing is one of the things that kind of makes people want to quit or think about quitting?
Yeah. I think to answer, like, there is people out there who don't, like, they come into the game not knowing if they want to, put this down. They come into the game not knowing if they want to compete in the first place. And then once they do, and they do catch that bug, and then they maybe run into, you know, they sign up for a bracket that's a little, you know, experienced, I guess you could say. They take that just maybe vicious quick L, and then now they're just in their head. And then sometimes you don't even see them come to practice for the next like month and a half, which is understandable, right? With jiu-jitsu, yeah, you have that team feel when you're in training, but when you're out there competing, you're technically by yourself. Sometimes, majority of the times, if your coach is busy and he's active himself, he's not even there. So you truly are the lone wolf sometimes when it comes to competitions. So I can see where mentally it can kind of mess with somebody when they take L's after L's after L's, and they may not want to come back to either jujitsu or at least the competition side.
Right, right, right. There's a similarity there with entrepreneurship because I always think it's one of the most lonely things you can do because it's literally like every decision and buck stops with you, and there's kind of no one really in your circles going through the same thing because it's not a very common thing. I think like with jiu-jitsu, not a lot of people do it. Like obviously we're stuck in this world where everyone does it, so it seems normal to us. But when you talk to like coworkers, colleagues, friends, family, like I was having a conversation with my mom the other day, and she was like, "Oh, so since working for yourself, do you have more time? And like, you're enjoying life." And I'm like, I mean, I'm enjoying it. The journey's great, but do I have more time? No. And like, I broke down my day to her, and her mind was just blown. So wait a minute, you run your own business and you work for yourself, and you're making less money than you've ever made in your pocket when your take home, but you're putting in double hours, and on top of that, you got like a part time job just to help pay the bills, so you don't have to take money out of the business. She had no idea what the reality of being an entrepreneur is. And I think jujitsu and competing and coaching is kind of the same thing. People don't see. I mean, jiu-jitsu people are kind of somewhat aware, like I think students
Yeah.
see how much work their coaches put in. So you get a little bit of kind of leeway there or good graces. But people that don't train, they just think it's like, oh, you show up, maybe 3, 4 times a week, you train, you compete, and that's it. They don't
Yeah.
see like all
They
the
see it as a
rest.
hobby.
Right.
Yeah, they see it like a hobby there or something that you're doing just to kill time.
Right, right, right. But how do you as a competitor juggle that pressure to compete and to deliver results, but know that, not every competition is gonna go the right way? How do you stay focused when maybe you're taking L's back to back?
Yeah, I think it was more now. Excuse me one second. We got a guest into the podcast. Come say hello. This is little J Rome. She'll be
What's
a
going
wheelchair.
on, Midi J Rones?
Say hi. This is F Rome. So her name's Francesca. Say hello.
Clearly didn't get her looks from you.
Chill, man. This is a copy and paste right here. Say goodbye. All right, go. Close the door, please. Yeah, you said how to deal with the pressure and whatnot, right?
Let's
I
stay
would say,
focused.
yeah, to stay focused. I mean, I guess everyone's story is different. Like for me, it's just like I wanted to be the top dog. The school that I went to previously, when I first started like competing every weekend, I learned that the coach was doing the exact same when he started competing. Not to just drag on the story, but I went to his house and he showed me one of the things he showed me was like a spreadsheet of like he was like a nerd about his jujitsu. He typed down all his wins, all his losses, the date, how he lost, how quick he won, all that cool stuff. And that's what really motivated me to start competing very actively. Excuse me, I'm burping up my coffee. To start competing very actively. And then, I had the pressure of like, I want to like outwork my coach, outdo that. But then we fast forward until like where I'm at now, I started coaching and things like that. Coaching, throwing my own events as far as jujitsu. I would say now I feel like the stage is bigger for myself because I've put myself out there enough where now it's like, oh, yo, it's some people get intimidated just because who I am, not even because of the skills of jujitsu. And that's kind of frustrating because I want to be that dog. Like I want people to view me as that dog, but that could be just me mental, But yeah, I would say the fact that I'm coaching now, throwing the events, and I would say how I handle that pressure is just letting myself know, like, hey, like, these wins are just gonna keep catapulting me to a bigger picture. So I just stick through it. And sometimes, this is my best advice to a young competitor, sometimes it's not even you winning often that gets you seen. If you can go against someone who's a dog, maybe you are the underdog, but then it's a 3 round match or it's a 10-minute round and you go the full 10 minutes, you go the full 3 rounds. You'll end up getting a lot of love for that than actually beating the guy. Cause they'll be like, oh shit, like this guy, he's the real deal. He couldn't get taken out or he gave this guy such a tough match. Next thing you know, you start getting invited to all these promotions. But I would say that was the extra fuel for me, not to go off topic. The extra fuel for
Mhm.
me was just continuing to get myself out there. And I know that if I quit, I wouldn't be able to get the opportunities of having my students have confidence in me, having people even interested in having me in their cards and earning the respect of my community and having them to want to come to compete, on JRI 3 and March 28th at Pure MMA.
That was the slickest plug I think you've had on the show. Yeah, now I got to figure out how to sneak products in there.
I got you. You leave that up to me, brother. You leave that up to
Alright,
me.
alright. This is
But
this is why I got you making my videos, bro. But that's interesting because yeah, that's interesting because a couple of things you said that I want to riff off is, number one, I think having a focus outside of the results. Because it's the same for me, like if I look at my sales by day, I send myself spiraling into a heart attack because it's like some days it's just garbage, bro. I'm like, oh my God, I spent like $500 on ads and this, that, and the other, and I made like $20 and it's like 4 p.m. How am I gonna like catch up on my targets? So if I focus on the micro little details, I can get like kind of in a bad mental space. But something that helps me a lot, which is similar to you, like you're saying, don't just focus on the results, focus on like putting on an exciting show, getting noticed. And even if you lose, it doesn't necessarily matter because you got noticed and you got, promoters and event organizers coming up to you. It's kind of the same with business. I might say, okay, today's going to be a bad day. But if I zoom out and look at the whole week, I'm actually doing okay. So the focus today is not necessarily to hit those sales targets. It's to work on a new design or get like something tweaked on the website that I'm super happy with that looks good, or make a connection with a new athlete. So I think that's super important for the long game because I was saying at the beginning of the show, you're talking 5, 10, 15 years of this before you really can expect to see any kind of success. And I actually had this conversation with Drew, the Latin Samurai. Shout out to those guys at the Jiu Jitsu Lounge over in New York.
my
Go check
boys,
them out. Yeah, super cool guys
there
doing
you,
some really
there you
good stuff.
go.
Yeah, see,
Working,
picking it up.
yeah, I see.
We're gonna have a professional podcast in no time, bro. Um, but yeah, those guys. I was talking to Drew a while back. It was a tournament we went to, and I think he lost the match, and he was kind of bummed because, like, on paper he should have won it. But I think I forget which match it was. So Drew, forgive me if I'm mixing up your matches here. But I think he cut his eye, so there was like this dramatic moment where he's like covered in blood. Or
That's badass.
either that or he hit like some crazy sub attempt, like a wild buggy attempt, and everyone was like, "Oh shit, that was crazy." Do you know what I mean? And he was bummed that he lost. I'm like, "Listen, Drew, like no one's gonna remember your record. I don't even know your record, and I'm a good friend of yours, and I've been like coming to a lot of your matches, and you're a sponsored athlete, so I have an invested interest in knowing your record. I don't know your record. I don't really give a shit about your record. All I know is you come to scrap, you pretty much say yes to anyone, and you're always going to hit some wild shit that's super exciting to watch. And that's really at the end of the day what people want. They don't care if you win or lose. They just want to see a good match. And I think for the
Yeah,
betterment of the sport too, that's what we need. Like no one wants to see you go up like an advantage point and then stall out the rest of the time. Like, okay, great, you
yeah,
got a great record and you're winning matches and you're getting medals, but you're just like the most boring jiu-jitsu on the planet to watch. So kind of like off that, I think you said something else which is interesting, is like people kind of come in with expectations that maybe don't meet reality. And I know I was certainly guilty of this when I started the brand. It's easy to look at a business model and think, yeah, that's going to be profitable. People like my designs. The business model is profitable, therefore I'm gonna make bank. Do you know what I mean? But as soon as you start getting into the game, you realize it's not that way at all. So, did you
it's
maybe have
not.
a moment starting where your expectations were not aligned with the reality of training, coaching, and competing?
I mean, to kind of circle back to the competing, yeah. When I first started getting really active with it, there was a run. I had this conversation with my student on the way to my comp the other day. I had a run where I didn't win a match for like 4 months, bro. It was horrible. I would do Naga or grappling industries, lose, or like I would go to Tap and all these places and just straight up lose. And I would say that right there kind of was just like, damn, man. All right, like I had a cool run in the beginning. What the fuck's going on? Like, why am I still doing this? And it got to the point where I was like, you know what, man, let me just chill. Like, this isn't gonna last forever. And someone told me this, and this is where it, changed my perspective. This is what I love about people in jujitsu, because everyone either has a similar story or they just, or like with life, period, you always gotta just kind of keep an ear open. But the best advice I give is the more you compete, right, the more you're going to give yourself opportunities to win. And it's the same thing with losing. You can't unless, you're someone like, the best Mike Musumeci, Gordon Ryan. But for the average Joes like us, who are just athletic enough to get there, you can't take you can't take, every L and win. It's kind of like sales, to if I can mix the both, it's riding a roller coaster, right? It has a lot of up and downs, but if you can just ride that middle wave, you'll be pretty good. You know what I'm saying? And yeah, that for my moment was just when I was losing a lot, and I was just like, damn, is it even competing? Something I really should be looking forward to. I'm beat up, I'm a lot older than these guys. What the heck am I doing? Then I realized instant gratification isn't nothing in this game, especially if you're still a blue belt, purple belt. So I got 2 other belts to go, 2 other however long runs of competing that you have at those respected colors or levels. But yeah, that's how I was able to shake that off. What about for you as far as sales and things like that?
Yeah, man. I mean, it's the same. It's like you say, you gotta build reps. I think, like with drilling, it's the same thing. It's the same concept with anything in life. You just have to be. It sounds kind of corny, but the cliche is you got to be in it to win it. I don't necessarily think you got to be in it to win it, but you got to be constantly in it if you want to have any chance of success or surviving. So for me, like we're talking about staying focused during the rough patches. I just look at every rep, even if I fail at whatever it is, whether it be a new drop, whether it be in training. I'm old and lazy, so I don't really compete. I can't I can't put that
Not
down
yet.
as a rep, but yeah, I know they need to make like a special needs, like disabled masters 28 division for me, and then I'll start competing.
I think they do, but I'll do the research for you. I got you, bro.
All right, yeah. Go find me someone with a spinal fusion, metal hip, one eye, dyslexia, and I'll fight that guy. I'll probably fuck him up too.
No limbs.
Yeah, no limbs. Yeah, 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 yeah. But where was I going with this? Yeah, so building reps, it's like it doesn't necessarily matter the outcome of the rep, similar to what we were talking about before. What really matters is that you took something away from it. So, if I have a drop that flops and I'm like, ah crap, I got, like 3, 4 grand sitting on the shelves and now I got to move it before I can buy my next batch of inventory, or otherwise I'm kind of dead and in the hole and got to figure out how to, make that money back elsewhere. I might have failed in terms of having a successful drop, but what that rep, shall we call it for one of a better term, will teach me is now how to move dead stock. So maybe I get better at running sales, promotions, and figuring out how to use that inventory in other ways to where I'm breaking even, but I'm still pushing the business forward. So one of the key takeaways I had is like I had a drop and it was super cool, did really well on pre-sale. I got overly confident, doubled up my order, but then what I realized is after the pre-sale, because the pre-sale is all of my engaged customers, right? So they're all the people that know me and they're like, oh, this new product, I want it. It's new, it's fresh, it's an easy sell for existing customers. But once it started to burn through that audience and reach new audiences that had never heard of me, they were like, it's kind of different. Maybe let me just buy a t-shirt from them first to check out their quality before I go to this new product that's a little bit experimental. So I ended up
Yeah.
with happy inventory just sitting on the shelves for the longest. Obviously you could put it on sale and try and move it that way. But then the way I looked at that rep, maybe not being the most successful, I was like, all right, I got this inventory. What I could do is portion off a section of it and just give it to athletes for free in exchange for content. So now I'm getting free marketing, reaching new audiences through these athletes and using the inventory productively. So on paper, it maybe broke even, probably lost a few $100. So on paper it wasn't a success, but in reality, I actually was able to flip that rep into something that was positive. I think having a mindset like that definitely helps you stay in it for the long run. You don't get so hung up on the details and like, oh my God, I fucking suck. All my drops are flopping, or I, just hit an L full comps in a row, or like in the training room, just getting smashed. But, similarly with my training now, I really only focus on positional rounds for the most part. Like I'll do open rounds because they're fun, so you get to be a bit more
Yeah.
expressive and you got freedom. But if I'm actually looking to get better, I really just focus on the positional rounds. And they're tough because they're all positions that I kind of suck at. So, I go into the round knowing the whole reason I'm doing this is because I suck at it. So I'm probably going to get smashed this whole session, like chest to chest
Yeah.
half guard. I've been working on that a lot. and like figuring out how to either be offensive or, get to a better position when you're kind of flattened out and on your back. And, each session it's like, all right, that fucking sucks. You know what I mean? I was like just smashed underneath someone for like an hour straight. But, I might have figured out one little thing like, okay, this frame works better than that frame. Or like if I can beat them here before they get chest to chest, then I'm gonna have a much better chance at regarding, So taking those little wins where you can and not being so absolute black or white. It's either win or lose. It's never that way. There's shades of gray.
Yeah, and it's like that cheesy, "You don't lose, you're just learning" type of
Yeah.
analogy, right? And it's funny, like, we make fun of it that it's like, when coaches say it, but it's true when it legit happens to you. It's like, "Damn, man, well, guess what? I learned that I shouldn't do this." And it really does become it's not a L, it's a lesson. Do
Right.
you think with that being said, it does take an effect on your ego and your identity when you have these rough patches?
Man, we're on the same page here. This is good. We're in sync. I was literally just gonna go down that path with you. But yeah, I think
We're becoming a professional
I
pod
know,
as
right?
as the questions and
Yeah.
episodes go.
Our 20 listeners will be proud.
Let's go.
But yeah, I think that's where, like, much as we're talking about the expectation versus reality disconnect, there's definitely like an ego disconnect. Cause I think you can get caught up on this thing of like, oh, I put in X amount of hours, therefore I should be here in my career or here with my training, which I think is a complete fallacy because number one, the hours and I hate these memes all about like hard work, pain is weakness, leaving the body, all that crap. It's like, it's nonsense because you can work. And I used to do this because I came from a Muay Thai background, which is all about, it's like just push hard, like cardio, 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 get the reps. It's technical too, but not to the level of jujitsu. So I came into jujitsu with that mindset of just like smash and push hard. Um, Pause. Um,
I was like,
yeah,
I
yeah,
was about to press
yeah.
spacebar real quick.
Yeah, I came in with that mindset of if I just, work really hard, get tons of training sessions in, I'll get good. But I soon realized that, that doesn't really matter because, like with business, it's a very technical thing. It's like just because you're putting in the hours doesn't mean you're going to see progress. And I think that's where the ego can get you a little messed up because, and I still have this problem with my business. I think, oh, I've been in it for, like, well, it's been 3 years official, but, let's say 4 with 1 year of building it. And then I see other brands that maybe started around the same time and they're like progressing a lot quicker. And, the ego in me is like, damn, like I must be doing something wrong. What am I missing? What am I missing? And, that causes a lot of mental stress, I think, once you start thinking like that. And once you let those thoughts creep into your head, it's very easy to get kind of spiral out of control. Cause I think, comparison is it's kind of like the killer of sort of happiness in a way. And we live in a society where that's rampant. It's like everyone
Yeah.
posts on social media. They only post the wins. They never post like the L's. And that's kind of one of the reasons why I wanted to have this podcast was to sort of show behind the scenes of training, competing, and running a business, like the good, the bad, and the ugly. And there's a lot more ugly than there is good. So, if your ego is fragile and you can't handle that, then or you're looking for instant gratification, like you said, you're looking for those quick wins and dopamine hits, then I don't think jujitsu is for you or running a business is for you. I think you truly have to be in it because you love it and you're not in it because you're looking for a reward. Like if I do X, I get like like with my dog, if she sits, she gets a treat. With business, it doesn't
Yeah.
work that way. I could do, let's say, sit all day long, but if the customers aren't vibing with your product and you haven't got a good marketing strategy and your business plan is trash and you're not profitable, then it doesn't matter how many hours you put in. I
That's
feel like
true.
training is a little bit like that, especially now. I think people are cottoning on with the training because when I first started, it was like, oh, boha, train hard, train hard. It's like you do the warm up, the shrimps, the run around the mat. You do maybe a couple takedowns to warm up, then you get taught a technique, and then you just go off and try and kill each other for like 45 minutes. There was no kind of thought process in the training. Now I think people have gotten much more savvy to that. But I hate it. Eco has got people thinking about the way we coach and teach.
Yeah.
I
And
think
my
this,
my coach leans heavy on the eco stuff. So
yeah.
I can agree.
And I'm now I'm like, I've been training for what, 9, 10 years. in the first 5 years was that very much old school approach, which is like warm up, takedown technique, spar. There was no kind of concepts. There was no sort of games. There was no real, like, I guess, understanding of priorities in each situation, which is a big thing for me now. And I'm like, if I had this 5 years ago when I first started, I'd be like, I don't know, maybe 2% better than I am now.
Be
Slightly above
mass
average.
Masters 28 world champ already by now.
Maybe. Um,
Yeah, I mean, I
but
would say
yeah, I
for me
guess like
too, like, oh my God, go ahead.
no, I was just gonna say for you as a competitor or a coach, how do you prevent yourself falling into that kind of comparison trap and making sure the ego doesn't take over and start putting those negative thoughts in your head?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard, you know. Sometimes you train every day, you think you're gonna go and smoke a tomato can, and that tomato can surprises you. So that gives you that humbling sensation. But I think a lot of the times I compare, and I need to stop this shit, is like when I'm at my pro sessions. My pro sessions from, you see in my Instagram, I roll with some of the best in the world. I have, my head coach, Sean Duddy Marco. I have Kivan. I have Gianni Gripple. Him and I, gotten pretty cool now at this point. So he's like my go-to guy when we train together. So with that being said, for almost 2 hours or an hour and a half, he's putting it on me. And, I get frustrated. Hold on, my ear's itchy. Freaking cauliflower. Sorry. Edit that
Be
part out.
good.
I get frustrated because he's so damn good. There's times where I feel like I'm getting there, and then, I guess that elite inner dog that they have just gets turned on. It's the same with coach. Like, I'll put coach in a bad position. Doesn't happen often, but when I do, next thing you know, he's just turning it up. And then now I'm just sitting there on the side when my roll is over, like, what the fuck? What am I doing wrong? Like, why am I even here? Or I'll get in the car. I'm very 420 cannabis friendly. So after class, I'll just be in the car like, damn, why am I even doing this, man? Like,
Yeah.
I shouldn't even be in the parking lot. They're all leaving, laughing amongst each other, shaking hands. I'm just in the car having a crisis.
Right.
But to avoid that, to kind of circle back to our last subject, is just you got to look at the bigger picture. They put in a lot of pain to get to that level. Gianni Grippo went against my old head coach when he was 14 years old. My old head coach was a grown man. And now Gianni's around my age, he's like 30 something, you know. Obviously, that's a lot of hard work. So I can't compare my almost 4 or 5 years of jujitsu to this man's 10 plus years or your 10 plus years or any black belt's 10 plus years. So I got to kind of take a moment, reflect, and just kind of remember all the good stuff that I did. Because even when I won my last match, last weekend, I won, but there was a sign that just didn't feel right until someone came up to me and was like, just be grateful, bro. You won. Like, you came to the stage, you won, you came out healthy. So there's no need for the negativity. You just gotta look into the bigger picture, and it helps me kind of get over that mindset. Or like, for
Mhm.
example, I always wanted a belt. So from white to blue, I've been chasing a belt for so long, and I didn't get a fucking belt until purple belt. So, so like I didn't, the people's champ didn't get his belt until almost 3, 4 years in. So you gotta put in the pain. You gotta go through the things you go through to get what you want. And then that's with everything, business, all part of the plot, you know,
Right.
whether it's breaking up with your girl, whether it's the business going bankrupt or getting a little injury that sets you back a little bit, but it's all part of the plot. So you can't let that affect you. And then, to our next topic, isolate you, because at the end of the day, if you let that little bit of energy get into you, it's hard to kind of shake it off.
Right.
So.
Right. I think it's like you said too, that's where you see the sort of the solo nature of entrepreneurship or the sport is because you're in a training room with other people, or I mean, I have people that work for me, or I could talk to my wife about business because she works for UPS, so she works for a really big business. But ultimately, their path is going to be way different than yours. So it really is just sort of on you to put in those reps and hold yourself accountable. Because I think there's also, like, on the flip side, you can easily get into this trap where you're like, oh, it doesn't matter, I got smashed, or it doesn't matter that my drop didn't flop. I'm on my own journey, so I shouldn't compare myself to other people. But you have to remember, you still got to hold yourself accountable. I think
Yeah.
that's where having a longer term vision of where you want to get to comes in, because it's like all good going through training and, finding these mental models to help you deal with losses and failure and feeling okay with losses and failure. But that shouldn't also negate you from holding yourself accountable and progressing forward. For me as a business owner, I do my financial budgets for the whole year, and I have a target that I'm trying to hit at the end of the year. And then I have a longer term goal where I want to see the brand in 5, 10, 15 years. My ultimate goal is to have it be the household name for jiu-jitsu gear, and then start branching out into other sort of extreme, well, I don't want to call them extreme. That sounds kind of corny, but like alternative sports. Um, Maybe it's Muay Thai, maybe it's wrestling, maybe it's skateboarding. I don't know yet, but that's where the creativity and having that vision comes into play. But vision without accountability is really not worth that much. And I think some people, they kind of separate the two. So they're like, it's all vision and rainbows and fuzzy feelings, and it doesn't matter if you lose because I have a vision. But then they're not doing the boring step by step tasks that are needed to hold themselves accountable. And for me, that's doing budgets, being financially disciplined, making sure I hold myself accountable to release dates of things, doing the nitty gritty work of analyzing my ads, analyzing my website, seeing, what's trending in terms of e-commerce traffic, and listening to other podcasts, and doing that day-to-day grind that's not glamorous. And then for training is, I'm sure you can speak to that, um,
Yeah.
so I guess talk to me a little bit about, as a competitor, how you hold yourself accountable without kind of beating yourself up too much.
I think I'm still trying to figure that out, if I'm being honest with you. Um, I feel like with me and, a lot of competitors are different because all they do is just compete, and they still, focus on their outside life. But mm, besides my daughter, I don't really have much going on. So it's just like, how to answer this question? It's a good question because like I said, I still am trying to figure that out. I'm pulled in a lot of different directions. So it's kind of hard to take that time unless I'm banged up. Like right now, if we didn't have this podcast, I would probably just be chilling my little one, eating breakfast and watching either film from my last match, or I would like watch I'm in a Patreon for our bodega. We have, Kevon has all of our games that we do. So I'll study that, or I'll just be on BJJ Fanatics. As far as competitor aspect, for coaching, I haven't really been too consistent with it, but I try to journal like everything that I teach, and then just kind of make sure that I'm following that game plan. And as far as the entrepreneur side, I'm doing a horrible job of I'm trying to figure that out. So, with JRI is cool because I have a team that works with me on site, but behind the scenes stuff, I do a lot of it by myself. G helps me with like, just recently she helped me figure out dates in the area, like when competitions and things like that are happening in the area. So I'm not competing with anybody. But other than that, like, I need to do a better job at like sitting down and reading the actual notes that I write about what went wrong, what did it. I mean, how can I avoid it? And yeah, things like that. But to answer your question, I'm 50-50. Haven't really figured out exactly how to keep myself accountable other than keep going. And that's pretty much it. So I gotta maybe manage myself a tad bit better. I think maybe that's a
Yeah.
step right there, me saying it out loud. Like, hey, I gotta kind of figure that out too. So in a nutshell, entrepreneurship is just, you're being unguided, especially if you don't, I have people I can go to it for advice like yourself and other business owners in my circle, but essentially it is all me. The horse has to drink the water by himself. So that's pretty much, that's where I'm at. Not sure if I answered your question, but
Yeah. No, I think it's pretty much, on the money. Because I do agree with you. I mean, first I'll say you're doing a good job entrepreneur wise. I think you shouldn't be too hard on yourself, because you're still hitting milestones. You know what I mean? Like, maybe it's not running perfect, maybe there's kinks, but how many shows you put on now?
work, 3 is officially on, out there. So I got to I started matchmaking a little bit. I have 6 matches, and this go around, they're going to be like a lot of like bigger athletes. So I guess you're right. I do got to pat myself on the back.
Yeah.
But yeah, 3 so far, with 3 not even done yet. Or
I mean, I would
yeah,
say also, the fact that you even out there competing, you're putting on your own shows, you got a couple belts, a couple medals,
Yes,
or
sir.
in my instance, you're even able to make a single sale online, puts you in the top 1%, already.
Hell yeah.
And you
Let's go.
because what's the there's like there's always like that saying of it's a breakdown of jujitsu stats. Like of the people that are active, what percentage of the world trains jujitsu? And it's like 0.111%. Of the people that train jujitsu, how many make it to blue belt? It's like 1% of that. And then you keep going down the rabbit hole, and then you realize, damn man, I'm in like the point zero 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 zero
Yeah.
zero multiple 0%, 1% of the population, just by the fact that I haven't gone bankrupt yet. You're still competing. So do you know what I mean? I think that definitely deserves some credit. But it is hard. It is hard finding those goals that you want to hold yourself accountable to, especially when you're an entrepreneur or in jiu-jitsu, because it's such a solo
Yeah.
endeavor. Like for me, basically it's like I wake up in the morning and I just got to figure out what's today's projects. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But that's why I think trying to have that long-term vision, like what do you want to be like after the competing said and done? What is it that you want your brand or your work to kind of accumulate towards? So is it you want to open your own gym, or you want to become a household brand, or you want to become the next, Craig Jones personality, and it's your personality that's the brand, having those
Yeah.
big goals that can sometimes be a little airy fairy, loosey goosey, and not really kind of mean that much help, because then you can start working backwards from there. So I don't know.
Yeah.
That's what I find helps keep me on track with accountability and not beating myself up too much. And it almost helps having such a big goal, because you're like, I'm trying to achieve something really big. So if I fail on these smaller day-to-day reps, it doesn't necessarily matter, just so long as I'm constantly staying productive and making mini steps towards that bigger goal. So
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
you know, it's not death by a thousand cuts, whatever the opposite of that would be, like
Yeah.
success by a thousand cuts.
I would
Yeah.
say like for like one of my goals, and I know that's not really a question you asked, but it's kind of got me thinking, figure I say it out loud. Like competitor wise, I do want to win an IBJJF. Whether it's an open, I've gone really close in an open, and I do in 2026 want to make my debut at a Masters tournament, the World Champ, whether it's, regular IBJJF Masters or Masters Worlds. I really do think that at 165, there really isn't many Masters athletes messing with me. My tougher matches are people my weight at a younger age, I guess, because those guys, they've been doing it longer. But, they still have to work for that W. It's not like I'm just giving it away. But I do find myself, and it's hard to say out loud because, right, as a man, you don't want to say, oh man, Masters, this is where it's at for me. But, it is what it is. Unfortunately, they didn't come out the womb doing jujitsu. So I started jujitsu at 31 years old already. So it was just like, I gotta just do what I gotta do. But yeah, goal wise, I do want to win a Masters Worlds or a IBJJS Masters World Champion. And then as far as a coach, I want to see the same thing from my students. And I think as a coach, and I know I'm backtracking your other questions, one of the hardest moments for me is when I see my class go from 30 something students to right now, we've just been averaging about like freaking 7 to 10 times 4 or 5 people in class. It's a little demoralizing when you have a big room and you know the capabilities that you can bring and you see, a small class. I guess goal wise, if I can kind of judge my progress if the room's constantly packed. People are actually reaching out to me for privates. They're not just coming to my class. When I start seeing visitors too, I love that feeling because it's just like, all right, cool. Like you're coming to show love and like you actually want to see what I'm teaching. Like that's cool as hell. And then JRI, and my own personal brand. Like, I hate using the comparison to Craig Jones because people like to say that, yo, you remind me of Craig Jones, especially if you're my close friends. I'm wilding the fuck out. So it's just like maybe I give off that Craig Jones vibe, but I just want to be Jay Rome's, bro. Jay Rome's
Yeah.
is lit too. Jay Rome's, he's just the broke version of Craig Jones, but we'll get there. You know what I'm saying?
Right,
But
right.
yeah, I feel like everything has an individual goal, and the JRI, like you said, it's still pretty brand new. but I do want to be up there with like, I learned a lot from Zach Maslany at Finishers. I want to get to that level. I know there is a bunch of jersey promotions and I respect all of them. But like, I just want JRI to be different. As an athlete, I want you to feel like the athlete through it. A lot of these promotions, they don't compete still, or they did in the past, or they just, they're just more on the business side where, yeah, I want to make some money and take care of myself and my team. But like, I'm just more focused on throwing banger events. And that's, I know I keep throwing up names out there, but that's some of the things I learned from Mike at Chronic Combat. Everything, we're more into like the service side. We want to throw like unforgettable events. And like, even though we don't get to throw events often with Chronic, you still remember every little detail from that event because it was so fun. And that's pretty much the level I'm trying to get to. The
Mm.
high rollers, the CJIs, the JRIs, like I'm trying to get my shit out there. So, hopefully by show number 5, it's like, damn, man, I can't miss that one. Like, so yeah, I feel like I went off topic, but it's
All
kind of
good.
triggered
All
me to
good.
kind of, yeah,
Yeah,
my ADD kicked in. I thought about the last question 5 questions later.
I know, right? So good. ADD is a positive with podcasts. I think it's like brings up some
And
interesting
jiu-
topics. But
and jujitsu too. Everyone wants to talk about autism. What about
right,
ADHD, bro?
right, right, right,
Like,
right, right.
cause like I've seen autistic dudes kind of like crumble when it comes to performing in front of people. Now, when you have ADHD like me, you see people, you get hyped, you want that attention. You know what I'm saying? You start competing good. So I hate competing in a room where it's just like just the competitors and that's it. Like that's just so whack. Like, give me a crowd, bro. Give me a sign where I can hear some oohs and ahs. Like I love that shit.
Yeah, for
You
sure,
know?
for sure. But I think something else you said that kind of sparked a thought in my head. Like you're talking about how some days you see the gym packed and you're like, okay, my coaching's going well, everything's going well. But then other days it's not that way. I think one of the other things that's important to know or be able to recognize when stuff is getting a little you've hit those hours back to back, or the business isn't going so well. One of the things that helps me get through is kind of pausing, taking a step back and trying to see when it's maybe not going to plan because it's outside of your control, and then trying to think about, well, what can I control to help me get back on track and keep moving forwards.
Yeah.
For me, I'm having a similar problem, right? It's January, everyone's spent up, they've burnt out their money, so no one's really looking to spend too much online. But I still got to pay, I still got to pay rent, I still got to buy groceries, I still got to pay my team, I still got to pay the factory for the next drops, and I still got to, keep the lights on. So, yeah, I've been spiraling a little bit the last few weeks because the sales have been tough. It's like the ads just aren't hitting. The conversion rate on the website kind of sucks. But what helps me get through those kind of darker patches is knowing, okay, this is just a patch, number one. And number two, it's happening to everyone. It's not just me, and it's not something I'm doing wrong. Like the product's still good, the designs are still good. It's still got a good match with the audience. The audience is still there, it's still a growing audience. So everything is still lined up for me to be successful. Just right now, it fucking sucks because I'm like, okay, I'm seeing the account shrink, shrink, shrink in terms of the balance, and paying the bills are still flying out, and the sales aren't necessarily coming in. But when I recognize what's going on, and I took a step back and realized it's not necessarily something I'm doing wrong. It's more, market forces just putting pressure on me. Then I'm like, okay, well, what levers can I pull in the business to help me get through this short-term patch so that when I come out on the other side, I'm still ready to scrap and, get back in the ring and start swinging again. So, for me, that looks like really figuring out profitability. Like, where am I spending too much? How can I cut back there? So, for example, okay, if the Meta ads or Facebook ads aren't hitting, why bother keep spending? Do you know what I mean? Like, cut that down 50%. And that's already like, a
Yeah.
grand a week I'm saving. And then the sales may drop 20%, but on the bottom line, I've saved 50%. Do you know what I mean? So I'm like, okay, I'm going to take a lower number on the top, but I'm putting more in the bank account. So when I come out in February, March with some new drops, I got money to put behind them. I can, get some good creatives. I can put a little money on the Facebook ads behind them, pay the factory up front, clear some debt, and I'm good to go for the rest of the year. So I'm rambling a little bit, but I thought that was interesting how you're saying, the as a coach, you see these shifts in the gym and it kind of beat you up a little bit mentally. But I think
Yeah,
knowing when it's outside of your control helps. I should imagine the same applies with competition, right? Like if you're fighting someone that's just like more experienced than you, maybe there's a weight difference. It's not necessarily in your control. So you just got to focus on just doing the best you can
playing
and
your
putting
game.
in a good scrap. Yeah, play your game.
Yeah.
But
Well, listen,
kind of
hopefully
on,
the thought of Jay Rones doesn't come up on those audit thoughts, man. Just
yeah,
keep blessing. I think that's a good part that you got going on over there. It's a good little
right.
budget you got to the side.
Yeah, 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 exactly. But I think kind of leading into the next topic I wanted to touch on is like, during those periods or even like during the good times, burnout is a real thing for,
Yeah,
I should imagine, for competitors, definitely within jujitsu, my own training and with entrepreneurship, burnout is crazy because it's like, death by a million decisions you know, especially now with all the information that's out there and how fast everything moves with AI and chat GPT. It's like, it's just brain overload. Like last night, I was up till 2 in the morning going back and forth with Shopify. They got this AI agent that basically sees all your website's numbers on the back end. And I'm like, yo, why is conversion rate down? Like, so, like, way more than just outside of the seasonal trends, and went on this deep dive about like, Meta has shifted delivery more towards mobile users and away from desktop users. And desktop users are generally higher converting because they take their time, they browse more. So when they land on the site, they're primed to convert, whereas mobile users is very fast and clicky, like a kind of TikTok thing. Anyway, I won't bore you with the details, but I was just going back and forth till 2 a.m. trying to figure this thing out and kind of got to the end of it with a loose plan of what I need to do. But by the end of it, I was just freaking exhausted. And that's just like focusing on one small detail of the business. I haven't even got to like the designing of the next drop or like figuring out content with affiliates. I was exhausted, which is why we were kind of late starting today because I woke up this morning and I had to I that all of that work was just to figure out what I got to do. So then I woke up this morning and I was like, right, now I got to start the work. There's literally no kind of respite. It's just like relentless.
yeah.
So for an
And you
entrepreneur
create
side,
your own deadlines too. So it's just like with you being your own boss, you got to keep yourself accountable too with deadlines, timing. Because if not,
yeah.
then you'll never get anything done. So I
Right,
get
right.
that.
And rent comes around first of the month every month. So that's a hard deadline right there. Do you know what I mean? And like with competing, none of us are getting older. We can't beat time. So, we've got to get it while it's going. But how do you cope with burnout as a competitor and a coach? And now you're juggling three buckets. You got competition, well, four. You got your training, your competition, RI, and coaching now. So how do you cope with burnout?
I would say the biggest burnout I felt was after JRI 2. So like JRI 1, I guess because the scale was smaller, the gym was smaller, and just like how I wanted to just introduce myself to the game didn't really feel that big. But for whatever reason, JRI 2, oh man, it took me almost 2 weeks to kind of like physically and mentally recharged, you know? And then I don't know if it's because of the age or whatnot, but with competition, I really haven't feel burnout. Just more of like, if my lady wants to go somewhere and I can't because I got shit going on, like there's that. I see my friends going out who maybe do jujitsu but don't take it as serious as I do anymore. I see them having a good time. So like it's more mental burnout. Not mental burnout, more like the FOMO aspect of missing out on certain things, more of a sacrifice kind of question. But I guess there's times where it's like I had 4 tournaments back to back and it's just like, damn dog, like I haven't even enjoyed a can of soda because I'm constantly gotten to make weight. Like right after me taking this L, like yeah, I don't even care. I just ate whatever. I'd had like the burnout type of mindset where I just kind of want to do my thing, but I have to snap out of it quick because I got to make weight by next Saturday. But the point is, yeah, I said how I deal with the burnout is just even if I have to unplug, I will literally just turn off everything. Not turn off physically, like turn off my phone, but like I'm not doing jujitsu. I'm not looking at jujitsu. I'm doing everything but jujitsu, even though I think about it. Nations Athletic is all in my drawers, so I have to physically look at it, but I'm not talking about it. I'm not, yo, what's good, bro? When you competing again, that conversation isn't happening. I'm just taking the time to just kind of do outside things, and that helps too. Whether it's have a joint with some friends who don't do jujitsu, spend the weekend. I mean, I spend the weekend with my daughter regardless, but like more not dragging her to a tournament, not dragging her to a training session, just more doing whatever she wants. Things like that, you know? Like I said, the training, especially with the training, like my body starts to call for it more than my mind. So like if sometimes I just have to force myself to sit down, because if not, then I'm just gonna keep training through the pain, and then I'm never gonna either get my energy back or recover. There you go. I'm either not gonna recover correctly, or I'm just gonna just mentally not want to be there. And I've had it where it's just like the burnout, I feel it, where then it affects my coaching. I go to coaching and I'm like, I just don't want to be there. And like I
Mm.
can't show that to my students, but I'm pretty sure they can feel it. I'm not as energetic. I'm not as making jokes in between techniques as much. You know, I'm maybe showing a little bit of technique, and then now we're all just sparring for the rest of class because I don't really feel like it, you know? But I have to find ways to not let that happen. So being on top of it is what's going to help me. And by being on top of it is, like I said, disconnecting a little bit and just kind of doing your own thing. Jiu-jitsu isn't everything, regardless. Yeah, it's a big part of a lot of our lives, but there's things that are bigger, our family, our friends, ourselves, and you can't really lose yourself because of the goal. Like the goal is cool to be, and like, that brings us to our topic. The goal, if you have a goal that you're chasing, yeah, it's cool to be obsessed with the goal and be passionate about it, but you can't let it consume you either, because then you
Mm.
start falling apart everywhere else. Like, damn, I feel like I'm going on a tangent, but I feel like everything's hitting right now. I used to work at this job. This lady told me that everyone has three pillars in life, right? So, like, the one middle pillar, right? If you think of like columns, like the old Roman columns, right? The old pillar is yourself in the middle, and then the other two are like your family, your friends, your business, your money, and then like your person. I don't know what the third one was, but the point is, if all the pillars crumble, then the whole building collapses. So like you can't let that happen. Point that I'm trying to make, and then everything is just goes to shit. So yeah.
Yeah, yeah. No, I'm
lesson,
picking up what you're
less,
throwing down.
lesson of the day. That
Yeah,
deserves a
lesson of the
little
day.
post
No,
right there.
I think that's definitely true because yeah, the way I try and juggle it is similarly is sort of I try and have variety. So I'm not just like constantly doing the same thing. And ironically, the business and the training side complement each other. So I'll spend like 8, 10 hours a day staring at a screen, just like constantly like wrestling whatever part of the business I need to. But I have that hard deadline, like, okay, 7:30 class starts, I gotta go. And then when I'm training, it's a complete flip 360 in terms of mindset. It's a physical thing. Obviously, it's still jujitsu. So yeah, it's kind of cheating because I'm not really switching off from jujitsu, but I'm at least switching off from business and getting that physical exercise and reset that really helps me kind of come back to the computer a little bit fresher. The downside is obviously, being 45, body's kind of banged up. I can't just like constantly be relying on training to be my one source of escape from the business, because then that's a vicious cycle, because it's like you end up overtraining, you get sore, you get banged up, your training becomes worse because now you're going into each session banged up, and then now it becomes another stressor in your life. It's not actually an escape. And so I actually found with my training, what has helped is sort of acknowledging that I'm older, and my training has to change with it. Ironically, less is more. So I found that I
Yeah,
used to just like it's like I want to get good hard training in every single day. I'd be training 6 days a week. I still try and shoot for six. Lately, the business has been kind of putting a wrench in that. But try and change for six. But I've noticed like the pacing of my training is more important. So I'll have like a hard sparring day, and then the next day might be more like flowing, drilling, troubleshooting, and then the next day will be back to sort of harder sparring days. So with each training session, I actually go in with my body feeling a little better. The inflammation is kind of lower, the joints are less sore, I'm moving better, and I'm like, oh damn, like it's actually a better place to be in with the training. So less is more. I think variety is definitely the key. So whatever that looks like for you, for me, obviously, I don't have a lot of variety. I need to get more of that. I need to get better at that. My wife always tells me that I'm terrible with this, and she's right. It's like jujitsu on my dog or her. That's basically it. So, but I think having that variety, like you say, just sort of being able to switch off, turn the phone off, go hang with your family, do something that's not business, not jujitsu, or not related to whatever endeavor you're pushing towards, definitely helps with a little bit of a mental reset.
Yeah, I agree. It's always hard too hearing it from the lady say it. It's like, damn, once she starts, once the lady's telling you like, yo, you're doing too much. You're not, you know what I'm saying? It's
Hmm.
like, I got a lot. I gotta make a decision I'm not gonna like, but it is what it is.
Right. And it's hard, right? Because I think that's one of the difficulties when you mix your passion with your profession. There's no off switch. It's like a feeding frenzy. So it's like feeding, excuse the language, but feeding a crackhead crack. Do you know what I mean? It's just like you want
Yeah,
more,
and I
and there's
love me
like
some crack.
yeah. So I'm like, I've gotten into this place in my life now where, and the other part of it is, if you're looking to do this professionally, whether it be a professional athlete or professional entrepreneur, you only ever eat what you kill. So you've got this kind of gambler's mindset where you're like, damn man, I gotta check my numbers. I gotta check my numbers. My numbers need to be good. Or like with you, you're like, I gotta win that title. I gotta win that title. So there's no off
Yeah,
switch. And it's like it can be really unhealthy. It's a blessing and a curse because obviously when you're passionate about something, you can generally achieve great things. And if you're not passionate about it, you're probably not gonna achieve, anything substantial.
anything.
So, which is why I had to leave the corporate world because I was like, I'm not passionate about this. Yeah, it's cool, it's good. It's like, it pays the bills and I can do a good enough job. And I'm passionate about certain aspects of it. Like I love the building piece of it and creating something and looking at business models and trying to figure out like where the issues are and fixing those problems. That I like. But the end result, whether I'm selling shoes, bags, jackets or Chipotle bowls, doesn't really do anything for me. But once you combine those two passions with jujitsu, then now that's all I want to do is just eat, sleep, and breathe that, which keeps you going and helps you do incredibly difficult things. But it also the side effect of that is burnout because you're just always in this on state where your brain is just firing at a million miles an hour, thinking about a million different things, and there's no real off switch and it's hard to find that space to decompress.
Yeah, it's like you're in this space, man, where it's just like you're just literally just lost, pretty much. You're lost in it. Once you take that dive, you're just in that black hole.
Right. You're in the matrix, man. It's just turning into my therapy session real quick.
Yeah, bro. That's the good thing about podcasts, bro. That's what we're becoming pros at this.
Yeah, but I think it's important for people to see behind the scenes of what it's really like, and not just the kind of polished Instagram post. 'Cause that's one of my biggest pet peeves about brands. Like it's all very much curated, and from the outside looking in, they sell, or like even athletes and fill in the blank, entrepreneurs in general, is they want to present this polished look and version of the reality that just isn't true. So I think you get a lot of people coming into it, which is what we were talking about earlier, with this mismatched sense of sort of ego and expectations versus the reality of what it takes. And it's not really that glamorous. Like when you look at what we do on a day to day, it's like, if you're looking at a gym owner's day to day life, it's mopping the mats, it's finding rash guards that have been left from the night before that fucking stink. Do you know what I mean? It's figuring out how to coach kids classes, how to figuring out how to get more inquiries and more leads coming in. It's not actually all about the training and the jiu-jitsu. And for me, it's the same thing. I got into this thinking, it'd be super cool. I'll just train a bunch and focus on design, which is the part I actually love the most. And now that's maybe 20% of my week.
Yeah. Now the rest is like, hey, how can I get my company out there, and make my return back, which is literally I guess the formula that everyone still has to figure out how to crack. It's one of
Right.
those never ending things.
Yeah.
Unless you're McDonald's, but
I mean, even they have
yeah.
to figure it out someday.
Yeah, for real. That's gonna be us. Nation's gonna be the McDonald's of jujitsu.
Oh no, don't
Just
say that.
healthier, cleaner.
McDojo.
Healthier, cleaner. The
Yeah.
McDojo. McDojo BJJ.
I mean, listen,
I
if
mean,
the
it would
paycheck's there, then yeah. I'm not too proud about this. I'll sell out for the right paycheck.
But I'm here along with you, bro. 'Cause I'm tired of this, grandpa.
Right.
I'm tired of this. And with that said, man, in order to get to that level, you can't quit. How do you, as a business owner, not quit? No
Credit
matter
card debt.
what.
I gotta pay my credit card debt before I quit. I
That's
can't have
true.
that. I can't have this current credit score I got. So I'm like, damn, I gotta
Yeah.
clear all this money to pay back the banks. Nah, but seriously, it goes back to passion. There's probably two main ingredients. So number one is you gotta be passionate. You gotta genuinely love it. It's not about the money. It's not about the fame. It's not about the going viral on IG. If you're not passionate about it, then forget about it. And then number two, I think is, like we were saying in the beginning, it's very important to have a long-term vision or goal about where you want to head to. Because if you don't have that, then your passion is just going to be, aimless without focus or direction. So, focusing on those two things during the rough patches, I think helps. And then also you gotta like stop and smell the roses a little bit. I'm gonna sound a bit like a hippie. This is where the pothead comes in, I think. It's like sometimes I gotta take a step back and think, damn, like, I actually started a business. Like how many people could say they started a business? Or damn, I actually like put on my first competition tournament, or like crap, I'm actually getting paid from jujitsu. Who says that they get paid for what they love? It's like we're going back to earlier in the podcast talking about it's like 0.0001% of the population get to say they do this. You know, that's it for me. It's different for each person.
I feel for me, like to touch base to the paid on jujitsu, when I got my first, like anything that didn't have anything to do with competing, or it did because of my competing, but like just me being me, getting paid on this was like the real eye opener. Like, damn, like I am doing something, and like sometimes, like I said, I think the comparison thing from earlier, like I've hang out with a lot of guys who are really fucking good at this. Even the ones that people don't know of, I have killers that I train with on an everyday basis, some world champions that people don't know, but they didn't really market themselves, so no one's really ever heard of them, or they've seen them at tournaments, like, oh shit, that's him. But other than that, it's like, it's one of those things where like, damn, I ask myself, like, damn, like, do I even deserve like some of this, like getting paid what I get paid sometimes, or like all these brands throwing me opportunities while the next person is just watching. I have those mental, battles sometimes, because I try to humble myself, because I don't mean to make this religious, but if the Lord can give it, the Lord can take it away. You know what I'm saying? So it's just like I try to give myself those humbling moments, but then I have to like, like a song, you know, hold the nuts and kind of put it out there like, damn, I really worked hard for this shit. Like, you know what I'm saying? Kind of like, yeah, you can be humble, but you do got to remember, like, you put in the pain and you do deserve this, whether it's positive or negative. But yeah, man, that's with the JRI, I still haven't had that moment yet. The coaching, I had that moment when I saw, like I went to a grappling industries with my students, and I did for once didn't compete. I got shit faced and coached the whole day, which was fun. Like I felt like I was almost fighting another coach. I didn't like what he said, and I'm like, you motherfucker, like I'm like 4 or 5 beers in deep. Last person you want to talk bad about me or my students. But like that, I had that, oh my God, I'm a coach moment. Not even but when I went there to this tournament and everyone was wearing the Riverdale BJJ set by Nations Athletic. That was fire. You like that one, right? Like you like the custom Nations Athletic. But like seeing the whole team, I had my the gym made a cool Riverdale UFC sweater for me, and it had the logo you made for me on, like, just so you could tell I was the coach. I had the hat on, my favorite hat. Had the hat on, but then seeing my squad like just are like geared up, that was that moment, like, damn, bro, like, because I started coaching at Blue, and that was one of the things too mentally that used to mess with me, because you know, somebody gave me an offer literally, I want to say like 2 months after getting my blue. So when people saw me coaching classes back in 2022, they were like, what the fuck is J Rome's doing? Like, well, who does he think he is? He just got his blue belt. Why is he coaching? And like, I did it realistically because for starters, I really love the sport of jujitsu. And, I was getting, very active at blue, even though I was 2 months in. I did like by month two, at Blue, I was already on competition number 7. Grappling industries, you fight 10 plus people every tournament. So you do the math there, and I was beating higher level guys too. So, I guess it made sense for certain of these coaches to reach out to me. But now we take a step back. I'm almost a year at Purple, still coaching, you know, and, I have an MMA UFC, like, MMA fighter who's two amateur champ in 2 different promotions. I have another guy who he isn't a champ just yet, but he's won 2, 3 of his matches via submission. I have this one girl, one of my students. She's just strictly jujitsu. She does boxing too, but she's been competing a lot in jujitsu. She does nothing but place top 3. My first student, she took gold. She's at another school right now. She kind of like moved or whatnot. And then I have other ones. I have this one protege who's literally a mini version of me. He's a straight up dog. He's gonna be a fucking problem. He's only like 19. And I have another one. He's like 16, 17. Long story short, I have this room full of dogs on my competition team. And it's like, yeah, they worked hard, but, to not hype myself up, but I like to think that I did play a major part of it, whether it's ignite that competition bug in them because they see me going out to war every weekend, or just the level of things that I'm teaching in class. So it's just like, they're kicking ass out here. So that was that moment for me, like, damn, I'm really a coach out here. And I think
Mhm.
for competition wise, when I was able to walk down that ramp at Fury, when I was like, all right, bro, I'm at a potential UFC BJJ feeder now. Like, I was able to like get to this level of competition. That's when I was like, shit, like I'm here. And I'm gonna have that feeling again at the end of this month. I mean, from what the promoter said, it may be February still, but I'm gonna be on UFC Fight Pass again. And it's against the promoter's top dog. So like, I can either crush his dreams or he can, you know, I got something to go based on. He's a higher level grappler than me. So he has more to lose than I do. I have all to gain. And I'm really confident going into this one, even though I lost my last match. Regardless, um, hyper focused on that. But like, those are the moments that I'm like, damn, like I did this. Like, you know what I'm saying? So JRI, I haven't had that feeling yet, even though each show is getting bigger and better. But I'm sure it's gonna come soon.
Yeah,
Don't
yeah,
know
for
when,
sure.
but I'm sure it's gonna come soon.
But yeah, I think kind of wrapping up, one of the things you, a couple of
I'm
things
gonna
you
keep you on
mentioned.
this podcast all day.
Yeah, right. Well, I feel like it's been a good one. This has been a good one.
No, this one's fire. This one's fire.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
We've been
At
getting
least,
some compliments too, by the way. I don't know if people been DMing you, but like, I've had a few people hit me up, like, especially after our first episode,
oh, nice.
like, yo, bro, like, you guys were dropping some gems there. Like, I needed to hear that. Even some of our athletes too are part of our nation's team. They're like, yo, Jay Rome's like, hearing your point of view and hearing Mark's point of view is actually pretty cool. And I'm excited to drop our last episode, like, with the Philly Phenoms. Once we get those edits up, they're I'm still like at awe, like from what I learned about them. Like, I didn't know they were a husband and wife company, so like, or organization. So, I'm big on that. So
Mhm.
that's pretty cool. Especially like, it's hard to, and I know you want to wrap it up, but for the couples out there in jujitsu who want to like make something, I think it's hard to do it by yourself, right? Especially if like the partner you have isn't in your niche, right? Your partner does something completely else. Maybe she's a nurse, maybe she's a lawyer, nothing that has to do with jujitsu, period. So for them to view it as like a hobby while you view it something differently is a challenge. So, you know, coming together, creating a goal, creating something together, it's pretty fucking cool. So like, I'm pretty excited to, show their why and, how they become so successful, and hopefully take some of their ideas and make it my own too. Not
Mhm,
to be
mhm,
a,
mhm.
I don't know how to explain that, a stealer of ideas, but, just
No, yeah,
they
I've
painted
run it.
something, it worked.
Yeah, I've run into stuff like that before, where people are like, "Oh, is this a copy just because it's the same concept?" Personally, I think that's BS. It's like, just so long you could take the idea, and just as long as you're improving on it and putting your own spin, I think it's still okay. But I think a couple of things you said that I want to just wrap the podcast with is, leaning into what energizes you. I think that's a big part of not quitting too. You're saying, seeing all your students do well and getting kind of blasted as a coach and just kind of coaching. So if you focus on what energizes you and figure out how to sort of weaponize that to your advantage, I think that will keep you in the game a lot longer than any sort of short-term wins.
That and figuring out your why. Your
Yeah.
why, you got bills to pay, you got a family to support, That's why you started a business, you wanted the bigger picture for yourself. So leaning on your why heavy, leaning on your goals, that's what's going to help you get to where you want to get to, you know. You can't just become the people's champ overnight. You got to lean on the why, you know, things like that. And the reason why I have this belt for people, and quick little promo out there before we close out. Warrior Cage Grappling just had a promotion. They just crowned the champ, but I just want to remind y'all there is only one champ, and his name's Jay Rome's. And yeah, when we all fight for our respective $5,000, I just want y'all to know Jay Rome's is coming out with that. So just a nice little promo for
There you
some of
go.
y'all out there
There you go.
watching.
So I think we can wrap it
Let's
up there.
go.
That was episode number 3 in the books. Underdogs podcast. Two average dudes trying to do some unaverage things. Don't forget to subscribe. Yeah. Let's try and get our listeners from 10 to 15. We're going to have some record breaking numbers on the next podcast.
Yeah, let's do it. We have some guests too, just to kind of hype it up for the next future podcast. We have some guests. Hopefully, with the snow that's melting out here in Jersey, we can go back to the fancy podcast studio that we were going. Being that we are the Underdogs podcast, we do have some underdog shit that we need to figure out, like service and connections and echoes and things like that. But it's part of the plot. We'll make this into something crazier. I'm super excited. Thank you, Mark. All right, cool. Y'all, thank you for tuning in. This is the Underdog Podcast, episode 3, fully completed. Come check us out on Spotify. Follow us on Instagram, Nations Athletics, Mark Sharma, right? That's your Instagram, your
Yeah.
personal one.
And Sharma NY.
M Sharma NY, and you can follow your boy at _ J Romes __, and you can follow the J Romes Invitational at J Romes Invitational. And yeah, shouts to our sponsors. And like I said, I will be on episode 3 will be on Spotify. See y'all soon.
Peace.
Peace.